Hello, welcome to Tim Anderson Horse Training. Today we're going to bridle a hard to bridle horse. I'm going to show you how to work with a horse that's hard to bridle and explain what makes a horse hard to bridle so that that can be changed so that once you get him where he bridles easy, he will stay bridling easy. We need to fix so that they're not hard to bridle, and we need to change the thing that we're doing that made them hard to bridle. So let's get started. When we bridle a horse, there's basically three things that need to happen that we need the horse do for us. One of the things is we need to be able to, just behind his ears is the pole, we need to be able to put a little bit of pressure and have the horse lower his head, just like that. When he raises his head, I'm not going to release the pressure. I'll hold it until he puts his head down. Once he puts his head down, I'll release the pressure. You want to make sure that you don't follow the horse's head down when he's lowering it. You want to just set your hand in that position and hold it so that he's actually pulling his head away from your hand. The other thing that we need to have happen when a horse is hard to bridle, he needs to be okay with having his ears messed with, because we're going to take that bridle and we're going to either slide it over his ears or we're going to put his ears forward and then slide the bridle through. So the horse needs to be good with his ears. Obviously this horse here is fine with his ears. That's not the problem with him being hard to bridle. The problem with this horse and why he's hard to bridle is they have been removing the bridle in a way that has been causing him pain. So that pain is in his teeth. So the biggest problem we're having with him is he doesn't want to open his mouth. He wants to throw his head up and he doesn't want to open his mouth. So what I'm going to do to get him better about opening his mouth, I'm just going to put my finger right here on the side. See that right there? He's worried about what's going to go in his mouth. And when he opens his mouth and chews, I'll release that contact. All I'm going to do is right here on the side of his mouth, I'll just put my thumb right here in the corner. When he chews, I'll release. I'll put it in front. See, he's clamped it down in front. He has his teeth clamped down. When he opens and chews, I'll move my finger. Now to help him with that, I'll put this other finger in the corner. So he's clamped down really tight. He doesn't want that bit to slide in between his teeth. And I'll release. Good boy. And I'll work with each one of these three parts individually before I even attempt to put the bridle on him. Finger in mouth like it was bit, hand in the corner, release. Good boy. Good boy. One more time. Good boy. Now let's do two of those at the same time. When I go to bridle him, I'm going to have this hand up here, and I'm going to have the bit down here. Good boy. I'm not squeezing and putting pressure, but my hand is going to be up there holding the top of the bridle. I don't want him pushing his head back up into my hand that's going to be up here holding the bridle. Let's practice that again. Good boy. So now that we've worked on that and it's better, we'll try it with the bridle and see what happens. This is just a plain ring snaffle, it's nothing special. And you don't ever want to put a bridle on a horse when they're tied, and the cross ties are tied to something solid or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the cross ties. And I'll take this rope, just put it over my arm so that I have something to hold him with. Now, what I want to do, since I already know that he's hard to bridle, and if I come at him on this side, he's just going to pull his head away on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the top of the bridle over here, and I'm not going to go right at him. I'm going to take my time. I want him to be comfortable with everything. Go over his ears, the bridle hanging there. Good boy. Good boy. There we go. Good boy. So now that he's comfortable with my hand over here, I'm going to take that bridle, whoop, he knows what's coming. I'm going to take that bridle in my hand, and with my right hand, I'm going to get him to put his head back down. Put your head down. Good boy. Good boy. And I'm going to work this in little pieces. I'm going to break it up into those little pieces. I'm not going to go at him all at one time. He's going to try to avoid the bit. Now for right now, just slid it over his head. I'm asking him to put his head back down. Good boy. It's not in his mouth. But I'm going to take this as progress, and I'm going to reward this. Let's go ahead and take it off. It's not in his mouth. I just slid his head through the bridle. Good boy. He's worried about the pain that's going to come. So I need to do what I can and let him see that there's no pain. Head down. Head down. Good boy. And over his ears. Good boy. Over here. Now I'm just going to slide it over his ears and slide it off. It's not in his mouth. It was just under his chin. Now let's do that again. Hand over on this side. Over his nose and over his ears. Good boy. Good boy. And we're going to slide it back off. And lower it down. Good boy. Good boy. So in all this, there's no pain. He's going to get more comfortable with this. Come here. He's going to get more comfortable with it. And it's going to keep getting easier and easier, and he's going to quit moving his head around. Over his head, over his ears. Good boy. Back up a step. He took that step forward. I'm just going to back him up one step. Over his ears and slide it down his forehead. Good boy. Now, one more time. Back up that step. Back up. There we go. Good boy. That was better. Really don't want him to, I don't want his head up here to put the bridle on, but I also don't want it all the way on the ground either. It's almost impossible to put it on up here. And it's hard to put it on down here, and especially when it's down here, the worst thing you can do is get your face over his neck, and then if he throws his head up, he's going to hit you in the face. You definitely don't want that. You really want his head in just a comfortable, basically a chest level position that's easy for you to work. Slide it over his ears and down his head. Good boy. And I would keep doing this over and over until he lets me do this with no problem at all. He's not throwing his head violently, but he's not accepting it as willingly as what I'd like either. He is expecting that pain to come. And what happens, what creates this problem to begin with, a horse has teeth on the side, in the back, and then a horse has teeth in the front. And the bit sits in the gap in between where there's no teeth. And what happens is that if you take the bridle off, and you've noticed I'm sliding my hand down his forehead. If I take the bridle off and I bring it out here, I'm not holding the weight of the bit. He's holding it in his gums, and what's going to happen, he's going to release it from his gums, and it's going to fall and hit the back of those front teeth. And that hurts, and that's what creates the problem of not wanting to be bridled to begin with. So to not let that happen, what you want to do is you want to take that bridle and slide it over his ears and slowly slide it down his forehead. Now if he had this bit in his mouth, I'm going to hold the weight of the bit right here until he releases it from his gums, from the corners of his mouth, and then I'll go ahead and slide my hand straight down. That'll give him the chance to take his tongue and lift that bit up over those front teeth so that it doesn't hurt and you don't create this hard to bridle problem to begin with. Up here, even though he's putting it down, he's still trying to evade the bit. He's not putting it where I want, which is right here at chest level. Now he's kind of throwing his head around. I've just got the bit right here. Just gonna let it sit right there a minute. Good boy. I don't want it down there. He puts it down, I'm just gonna pull it back up where I want. Good boy. Good boy. And then I'll release it. Let's do it again. Nope, we're not putting it down there. Not putting your head down there, we're gonna put it right here. There we go, good boy. Good boy. All of this, holding the bit in all different kind of places, and it's showing him that he's not, that the pain is not there, that he remembers. I have to get that memory of the pain to go away in order to fix the hard to bridle issue. There we go, good boy. When you slide the bridle over the horse's ears, there's two different ways you can do it. You can push the ears forward and then push the bridle over, which is generally what's considered correct, but you can also slide it over the ears, which some people think is improper, and it might be improper, but at this point I want to make sure he's really comfortable with his ears being messed with, so I'm going to do it all different kind of ways at this point. And then once he's back comfortable being bridle again, then I'll go back to doing it with pushing his ears forward. Good boy. I want him to know that no matter what happens up here around his ears, it doesn't hurt. Sometimes you got to have a horse that the problem is with the ears, and the horse is head shy, might have a tick in his ears, or might have had a tick in his ears, and he remembers that that hurt. So the horses like that remembers the pain in the ears, then you're going to have more ear problems and not the teeth problems that I'm having here. So now that I got the bit up here, let's work with getting him to open his mouth. Good boy. I'm going to keep working this, sliding it over his ears and his mouth. There we go. That was good. He let me do all of that part, and he actually tried to help me slide it over his face. That was good progress. Good boy. Good boy. Now that I have it at this point, I'll just put my finger in the corner of his mouth. Ask him to open his mouth. Good boy. Good boy. Slide it back off. Good boy. Good boy. Now let's do that again. Over here. Over his nose, over his ears. There we go. Lots of progress in just a couple minutes. It's all just breaking it down into little pieces and working those individual pieces. Every time I put it on like this, even though it's not in his mouth, he remembers that it doesn't hurt. Good boy. Put my fingers in his mouth, open his mouth. Oh, no, oh, oh. I'm gonna keep my hand moving with him. Good boy. And then slide the bit off. Hand down his forehead. Good boy. Back up. There we go. Let's do it again. We don't want it down there. Over his nose, over his ears. Good boy. Open his mouth. Good boy. Over his ears, down his forehead. There we go. Getting better every time. Just consistency. He remembers that when he got that bit before, it hurt. So I have to do this enough times that memory goes away. Good boy. I need to create the memory that he takes the bit and it doesn't hurt. Down his forehead. Good boy. Back over here. Now let's see what happens if I ask him to open his mouth. Now, got my hand on his mouth just like I did before. Open your mouth. I'm going to follow his head. It's high, and I know, and it's hard to stay there. I'm going to do my best. Stay there. Over his ears. Good boy. Wasn't pretty, but that was actually better than what it has been. Now, this is where the problem was created, that he didn't want to take the bridle to begin with. So I'm going to make sure when I remove the bit, I'm not going to let the bit touch the back of the front teeth. So I'm going to slide it over his ears. Give him a chance to release it and work it out of his mouth on his own. I hold the weight, but I let him get it out of his mouth so that it don't hit his teeth and hurt his teeth. Good boy. Good boy. Let's try that again. Notice this is a one-ear head stall. I'm really not concerned about getting his ear through that hole. At this point, I don't really care. Gently, real gently. I'm not going to force it. I'm going to put it there and let him open his mouth and let him take the bit. There we go. Good boy. I'm not concerned about getting his ear through this one ear right at this point. Don't really care. At this point, I just want to practice putting it on and taking it off correctly. Good boy. Now we'll take it off again. Hold the weight up. I'm actually going to hold the weight, some weight down here too, just to make sure. There we go. See him flinch? He was expecting that to hit his teeth and hurt when it started to move. Good boy. We've got to do this enough times that when that bit starts to move, it doesn't fall and hit his teeth. Do it again. Up here where it's, come on, up here. Gently into his teeth. I'm not going to pull it. I'm going to keep it there, and when he softens, I'll ease it up where it needs to go. Then I'll slide his ears through. Good boy. Good boy. Better and better every time. Slide it over his ears. Support the weight. And let him spit it out. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. He's really wanting to put his head lower than what I'd like. I like it to be a little higher. That was a pretty good putting the bridle on and putting the bridle off, and his head was a little lower than what I'd like. I'm not going to complain about the head being lower. I got something really nice with him accepting the bridle and taking the bridle off. So for the next forever that I bridle this horse, I'm going to do it that same way, create that good habit on my part, and create a memory on his part that the bit does not hurt. When you create those memories on his part that the bit does not hurt, then your bridling issues just go away. So that's it for today on how to bridle a hard to bridle horse. Until next time, thank you for watching.